My name is Jamin Goecker, and for the very first time, I get to say that I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. Now, what's going on in Anchorage? There's a lot of headlines going on right now saying that the market is collapsing, there's a crash, and if you're watching a lot of websites like Zillow or other websites out there, it looks like prices are coming down, and it sounds like the doom has fallen on the entire real estate market here in Anchorage. Is that really the case? If you're on the ground, is that what it feels like? Well, we're going to be pulling apart a lot of details today. We go into a lot more depth than we usually do because once we start seeing a shifting market, we need to really take a close look at the numbers to make sure that we understand the entire picture. Before we get started, make sure you get this video liked, subscribe, and without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, the first thing we want to look at on the residential side in Anchorage is just how many properties are available on the market. Well, this time last year, we had about 157 that were available on the market. This year, it's 170. So we see just a very, very small uptick in the number of properties that are available on the market. If you're a buyer, that's a promising development. Now, the second thing that we see is that the number of total properties that have sold has drastically taken a cut. And this is a consistent trend going from January, because in January, last month where we did the market update, it went from about 190 properties that sold the year before, and it went all the way down to about 90 for the month of January. Now, looking for the month of February, compared to the year before, it went from 173 to 112. So we're not seeing as drastic of a cut of the number of properties that actually sold, but it's still coming down to a fairly significant amount. Now, the thing that I know everybody really tuned in for is what's going on in the average sold price. Well, technically the average sold price year to date, and that's important, I'll explain why in a second, actually went down from about 456,000 down to about 440,000. So that is a 3.5% decrease in the average sold price. Now, if you see something like that, you're probably going to be ringing the alarm bells and you're going to be saying, doom is here and it's going to be a buyer's market before you know it and everything's going to be on discount. Well, not necessarily. This is really an example of why you really need to take a deep dive into the numbers and into the data to really make sure you understand the full picture. So let's go ahead and peel back some of the layers real quick. First off, you have to keep in mind year to date includes everything up to the current date that we pulled the data, which in this case was going to be right a couple days over the end of the month. And keep in mind, most properties are going to be closing around the end of the month. And so you kind of get a disparate number of, you kind of throw off some of the data depending on the time, just because so many properties do close near the end of the month or near the beginning of the month. Now, also, once we look at the properties that have actually closed for the entire month of February, we see that actually went from about 415,000 this time last year to about 445,000 this year. So we see that once we look at the entire month of February, instead of just doing the year to date, we see that we actually saw a pretty sizable increase for the average sold price. So that's number one. Secondly, what we see is that the size of the properties in Anchorage pretty much stayed consistent from year to year, so not a whole lot of concern there. It went from about 2,120 square feet, and it adjusted to like 1 foot less, so overall it really did stay about the same. The big thing that did change was the price per square foot, because that went from about $209 per square foot to about $220 per square foot in Anchorage for this past year. And that's significant because if you were seeing a collapse in the market, you would expect to see it going the other direction or at least staying stable. But instead, we're seeing that it's actually going up. So for the residential market, really, where does that leave us for the moment? Well, looking specifically at the residential market in Anchorage, what we see is the number of new listings coming onto the market actually has decreased by about 31% year to date. And that's significant because the number of total properties that can sell is obviously going to be pretty contingent on the total number of properties that are even available to sell in the first place. The number of properties that have actually sold is decreased by about 42%. Average sold price has actually increased by approximately 4% looking at the year-over-year comparison. Now, the days on market have increased, this year from last year. So I think a lot of people are getting a little bit more time to think it over, and that's a good thing. And the interest rates are going to continue to have a pretty good impact on the pace at which things are happening, because when interest rates are really low, everyone's ready to, hot to trot going right now. When they start going up a little bit, there's a little bit more time. So the best thing I can say is that if you have your property on the market, hasn't sold just yet, not necessarily the end of the world. Things are going to take a little bit longer to sell now, and that's perfectly fine. We had a really fast market before, and that's definitely not the norm. All right, let's switch gears a little bit real quick and take a look at what's going on in the condo market. So we're going to spend a little less time on this one. Pretty much it's the same concepts, though. We see that the total number of condos that are available on the market definitely did take a drastic cut from about 240 condos available on the market this time last year to approximately 80. So that's a big cut, but it's even bigger once you take it in context of a multiple year trend, because previously we'd see about 280, about 300, maybe upwards of 350 properties available, condos available on the market this time of year. That is like a quarter or even less than that, nearly 20% of what we usually have. So the condo market is becoming super compressed. Next thing we see is that the number of properties that have actually sold, not surprisingly, has taken a pretty big cut as well. Not proportionally, but we do see that the number of condos that sold went from 82 properties this time last year to 32 properties that sold this time this year in February. So we are seeing a big, drastic, over 50% cut in the number of condos that have actually sold. So with all that being the case, you might say, well, I guess that means that the condo market average sold price is probably going to be going down. Well, if you look at the year to date, again, as we've kind of established, that might not be the best way to look at it, kind of looking at just the total month up to that point for the entire month once we have it all together is probably going to be the most accurate, because it's more in line with what we're seeing with the sold price per square foot. But anyway, we see that the year to date went from 244,000 to about 242,000 average price per square foot on condos, which means we saw approximately a 0.65% decrease in the average sold price. So that does sound pretty scary once you just pull it up here. But again, let's take a look and see what the data shows us when we are looking at all of the data up to for the entire finished month worth of sales. And looking at this, it really does show us why it's so important to really take a closer look at the data. Because once we look at the entire month of February that's all completed, all the horses are in the barn, we see that the average sold price for condos went from $231,000 the year before to $262,000 the following year. That's right, the average sold price for condos in Anchorage has drastically increased over the past year. I mean, I can definitely feel this on the ground for the clients of mine who are looking for condos. It's a mosh pit. And any condo that's in a, good condition, nice area, it's going to be getting some pretty competitive buyers coming in and looking at it, because a lot of people are looking at condos instead of buying a single family home now, because interest rates are going up and inflation is making people want to look for more affordable options. Unfortunately, as we've looked at the total number of condos that are available on the market, there's not as many options available now as what we've had in previous years, which, it's kind of a weird scenario we find ourselves in, where suddenly the condo market is really the hopping section of the market, but that is just where we find ourselves. Let's go and take a break real quick, and let me tell you about a new initiative that we are doing with the Goecker Group. We have a goal of being able to donate up to $50,000 towards local charities with ourselves and with our clients. And a big part of what we're doing is really putting a spotlight on these local charities and what it is that they do to make our communities a better place. With that spotlight, we just have a quick video we'd like to share with you. It's going to be approximately 2 minutes long, really highlighting the very first charity that we and our clients donated towards, called My House. So do feel free to take a look at that. And it's going to be about 2 minutes long. We're going to put it near the end of the video, but you do definitely want to go take a look at that. And if you'd like to donate towards that great cause, certainly feel free to go get in contact with them through the links that are going to be provided on the screen and down below. Now let's take a look at what's going on in the multifamily section of the market. So for the total number of multifamily properties that are available on the market, we see that there is 73 this time last year. Now it is 33. So that's kind of a similar pattern from what we saw with the condo market. What we see for the number of properties that have actually sold is we went from 31 last year, 20 this year. So we do in fact see that there are, way less multifamily properties that are actually selling. Not a surprise once you take into consideration there are less properties selling. Multifamily properties are all over the place on the average sold price. We're going to go ahead and jump into it though, but again, it's kind of it's going to take so many more isolation of variables to really get a good idea for what's actually happening, because multifamilies include everything from the little duplex all the way up to the enormous multifamily, complex. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at it though. So the average sold price for multifamily properties went from about $509 the year before to about $443,000 the following year, which means technically we've seen about a 13% drop in the sold price for multifamily properties. So let's peel back some of the layers and look and see what's going on for the average sold price once we're looking at the completed data for the entire month of February. So there we see the average sold price went from about $485,000 down to about $429,000 is what it is for this year. So we do see a pretty sizable decrease, but again, there's just a lot of variables more in multifamily once we're looking at that versus something like condos or residential, just because the size and how many units are in the properties is just so divergent. I'd have to actually do a video completely dedicated just to multifamily to get a more nuanced approach to it. But technically we do see a decrease there. But realistically, I'm still not expecting a discount of multifamily properties anytime soon, because this is the time of inflation. Rents are going up, and property owners or landlords are not wanting to let go of properties right now unless they can find something better, because, why would they? Rents are going up. Their properties have never been more profitable. So where does this leave us right now? We see a lot happening really in the entire real estate market. This is a shifting market. I'm not saying that we're at a point where everything's about to collapse or everything's about to turn upside down or anything crazy like that. I will say that we are really paying attention to all of the variables. I'm not seeing realistically a decrease in the average sold price for properties right now. As long as they are marketed correctly, we are a little more patient than we were before, and we make sure that the properties are priced where they need to be. There's still some pretty good appreciation going on really across all of Anchorage, especially in the condo market. If you have a condo right now you've been thinking of selling, I would jump on that now, because once interest rates go back up, people are going to shift and they're going to start looking more for properties that are single family again. Another thing we have to keep in mind, once we start getting a smaller sample size, which that's really what we have with the total number of properties going down so drastically, you start getting more strange outcomes, more drastic changes one way or the other. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. So as soon as the number of properties that have actually sold goes back up, then that's going to give us a little bit more stability in the numbers. Until that happens, we're going to see some drastic swings in either direction, because just having one big property sell either this year or last year can really throw off all the data at this point once it's so small. But this has been your market update for what's going on in Anchorage. I hope it's been useful. Do reach out to me if you have any questions down below. And please enjoy this video talking a little bit about my house. If you'd like to donate to them, absolutely go ahead and do that. If you've got a little note in there, just make sure you mention that you're donating as a result of watching my market update, because we would love to track how much we're able to help this organization to get donations this year as well. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
I was at a low point in my life where I needed assistance, and my ex was a client through here and told me about my house, so I then got engaged. No matter how hard or difficult life got, my house was a constant, and just love and support and just continuous open arms, in that tough love when I needed it. One way or another, there's someone here that's been through what similar circumstances. I won't say exactly what you've been through, but similar circumstances, so you feel the connection and the love and the support.
My house is a youth drop-in center. We work with homeless and at-risk teens that are 14 all the way up to 26 years old. We provide housing, transitional housing. We provide job opportunities, job training, getting kids back into school. We partner with agencies to provide mental health, behavioral health, and substance abuse treatment. Since we started, we've done intakes on over 950 teens and young adults, and we've trained over 200 baristas, and countless kids that we've had in housing have gone on to succeed and have jobs in the community and are just thriving. Really, I want my life to make a difference. I want to know that when I go to work, it's not just a job that I clock into. I want to know that my days matter, and that when I show up to work, what we do matters in the lives of the kids that we meet.
Even if you feel like you don't deserve it, or if you feel like that you're not worthy of a better life, you are, and that we're here. That wasn't told to me enough. I feel when I was younger, and so just knowing that we are here and that we want to help you and you do deserve a better life is something I want to spread. So.